have had to wait a bit. Yeah.
He changed a lot in the Americans' view on what the president is, and paved a way towards having presidents that were not before and were actually rejected. And maybe this is an achievement or sort of achievement that should be taken into account. Right. But I really don't want to go into American politics. I have enough.
No. I want to get your general view. That brings me to a broader subject that I want to hear what you all say. You're all scientists, and there's been quite a lot of controversy triggered by a climate change row started in the United Kingdom, where some climate change scientists were accused of either manipulating or suppressing scientific data in order to advance the theory that global warming is man-made. Now, I don't want to talk about global warming and whether it is man-made or not, but let's just use that as a springboard to see whether you feel as scientists, in the light of this and other similar controversies, that the integrity of science is under attack.
Let's look at the science. Let's not look at the storms in teacups. Let's look at actually what the science of climate science is about, and let's look at that information, not these sorts of whipped-up sort of frenzies that are preoccupying the media. And well, I think we should think about...
You're blaming us.
Of course.
You always blame us. I mean, that is an easy one. I am not going to let you off so lightly, because I know that you served under George Bush between 2002 and 2004 on a federal commission looking at stem cell research.
Yes.
Now, you were pushed off that commission because your science wasn't consistent with the ban which George Bush, or your view rather.
It wasn't my view. It was just my insistence that any body looking at issues that are going to have science policy ramifications should take the scientific evidence into account as best you can. I was on a commission writing reports, and when you write reports, you want the report to be as accurate as possible, because if it's going to be an advisory basis for policy, you want it to have as correct assessment of the science as possible. And I kept arguing that I didn't see that was going into the reports.
To get back to your earlier question about, you know, the sort of misrepresentation in science, science has always had frauds, okay? But
well, we don't know whether there is fraud, because there's an inquiry going into this particular
controversy.
No,
I'm not saying this was a fraud, but I'm saying that there have always been problems in science. But it's a self-correcting mechanism. Scientists are humans, but science as an endeavor has built-in checks and balances. And one of them is that if something is false, other people, if something is interesting and it's false, other people will want to reproduce it. And they'll find that they can't, and then eventually things correct themselves.
Okay, so let's just get the record straight then. Very quickly, on this question of climate change, anybody who is, if I could put it this way, a climate change denier?
I think the actual data is only really understood by experts, I think. I mean, we can understand the summaries that the experts give us, and we have to trust that a large body of scientists who are experts in this field have the integrity, and we have to believe what they say is right, just as I hope that they'll believe us when we talk about ribosome structure. So I think that science is based on trust and integrity.
But I watch my salt marsh eroding in front of my house, and my geologist friends say that's because the sea levels are rising.
And you believe them?
I think they
You don't say, show me the data.
It seems to me that there's a lot of selective information being picked by certain people in this community of climate change. And it's very difficult, I think, for the average person to know whether what you're seeing is picked data or not. I mean, all these questions with regard to the ice in the Antarctic, how thick is it? I think you'll find that there's one part of it that's growing and another part that is shrinking. And unfortunately, there are some people that are selecting the information from that and using it for their own personal advantage. And I don't know how the average person on the street can tell whether the information that you're getting is selected information or not. And that's, I think, a very serious problem for all of us.
I think the philosophy of science is that we are there to ask questions, things that raise curiosity in us or passion to understand. And many times we have to look at concepts that are believed and find out whether there is still justification.
But
for
you
it.
try and give
This
answers, don't you?
Yeah, but we are, what I'm trying to say is our nature is to suspect and to look for all ways we can check things, whereas politicians have a different attitude.
I think the other
We don't know the
problem
science
here
of climate
is it
change.
takes time, really, to
Do you
sort
know
these
that?
things out. The thing that's running through my mind right now is how long it took science to get us straightened out with regard to the dangers of smoking cigarettes. It took a long, long time. I mean, it's a pretty obvious thing that you smoke a cigarette and you get killed. They sold cigarettes and kept on selling cigarettes, and still cigarettes sell
That's
cigarettes.
True. And scientists disagree on all sorts of things. I mean,
Yeah.
BSE, for instance. Yeah, go on.
The science was clear for a long time. It took policy decades to catch up.
Right.
And why was that, do you think, Jack? Because you shared the prize for
Well,
medicine.
there are
Why
all
was
kinds of conflicts of interest, and people have
People make
different
money out of
values.
it.
why didn't the scientific community, I mean, I know you weren't around then, but why didn't the scientific community say, look, politicians, ministers, the science is there, it's obvious, it's so bad for you?
They did.
But why would they not listen?
They're not listened because they're powerful lobbies
Okay.
that gain money from selling cigarettes.
And do you think that the world should listen more to scientists? I mean, even today?
I think
That's
so.
obvious, yes.
But do you think, I mean, is your voice
I think so.
listened to?
Scientists disagree only at the frontiers where things are not clear. But beneath the frontier is a solid body of science on which no one disagrees. Okay, we don't disagree about evolution. We don't disagree about, the nature of chemical bonds. There are all sorts of things.
But you disagree on a lot of things, and we saw in Britain,
but wait a
BSC, should you kill the cows, should you not swine flu?
No.
We've got different views.
Those are policies.
But people bring out,
edge of what's going
but people
on.
bring out a scientist to back this view, a scientist to back that view.
No,
What
absolutely not.
Wendy was saying, and I wanted to say too earlier, we don't disagree about the gravity, for instance. This is a principle, scientific principle. We don't even disagree about the camera that he made. The camera works.
We're going to talk about that, actually. Yeah.
No
Well, thank you.
matter what you think
Okay.
about cigarettes.
Let's talk about your discoveries briefly, and let's start off with the camera, since you've just mentioned it for us, Ada. Now, George and Bill, you won. Oh, is that it? Cheese. So that's it. Oh, you're showing us the practical application of your charge couple
And we
device.
agree about it.
Which is a device which enables us to take pictures more cheaply, reliably, and quickly, without the need for film. So it's the digital camera which you just showed us. Yeah. Did you get a good picture there, by the way? Not sure it was my best side.
I think you need a little more makeup on your nose. For this.
Oh, makeup, where are you? Okay, all right. So George and Bill, yeah, you did this, as we said, about 40 years ago. You brought about the digital camera, helped improve TV cameras, that kind of thing. But just tell us about the applications of your CCD, charge coupled device, this device that you're talking about. Can we see the device, by the way, George?
Oh, yes. I have one right here on my tie.
Oh, how convenient.
And of course, I can't. There it is. That is
Let me just hold it to
a
the camera.
working CCD that I got from Sony, which they implanted on the tie.
Do you see that, everybody? Isn't that amazing? That's
And
the
if you
CCD.
compare that, for instance, to the old camera tubes that they had in the TV cameras, it's quite a reduction in size.
You can say that again.
Cost and
And Bill,
reliability.
okay, Bill, tell us, I mean, just how this has helped transform our lives.
Well, I can be personal about that because I had an operation for a gallbladder, and that involves cutting something here. They used a CCD and didn't have to do any cutting at all. Just a tiny little probe went in and then just fixed it up. And I was out the next day from the hospital, and normally it would be a very costly and time-consuming operation.
Great.
So that in medicine, it's just now beginning to play a really important role, and it goes on in other areas as well.
And George, I mean, what else? I mean, the digital camera, mobile phones, taking pictures.
That's a very good example. If you wanted to send a photograph to your mother 2,000 miles away.